What up, party people? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about The Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter. This is the sequel to The Rage of Dragons and the second installment in the Burning series. I was a big fan of book one. Rage of Dragons was such a breath of fresh air. We ended the last book with Tao losing the woman he loves and failing to kill Abasi Odili, the last person on his list that he blames for the death of his father. But Tao also becomes the champion of the Queen Sayora. We leave off with probably the most memorable last line in a fantasy book I've read, and I don't think there's anything that competes with this one. The Fires of Vengeance is just as good as The Rage of Dragons. The direction that Evan Winter takes the story is fun. We get to learn more about Isihogo, the underworld, and we get introduced to new characters while revisiting characters we've already met and progressing their stories a bit more as well. The pacing is swift for the most part. Things are always moving and the stakes are always high, which keeps it entertaining and gripping for me. Seeing the Sword Brothers again and seeing the growth that a couple of them get in this book. Hadith and Udawak get a lot more in this book. We see some progression with them. It's nice to see the rapport evolve between them and Tao. I would have loved to learn more about Themba. Themba has been more prominent in this book, but we don't get more in terms of their story and their background, so I hope that we get that in book 3. Our main character Tao shows a lot of growth in this one. His beliefs are challenged and we still see resistance from him. I mean, this is a core part of his character. He's reckless and he has an indomitable will. It's very hard to get through to Tao, and I like that it's difficult. Of the main crew, Hadith Buhari is still my favorite. Of the new characters, it's a three-way tie between Nia or Naya, however you pronounce it, the Vizier of the Queen, Osset, and Ramia. These were all great new additions to the story. The themes in this book are intriguing. I ended this book wanting more, but I was still content with what we got. And we did get quite a bit in this book. A lot happens. But I will say that the only real gripe I could say I had with this one was the last 100-ish pages I felt started to pick up more momentum where it didn't necessarily need to. It misguided me in a way and had me expecting more to happen when really it seemed to have just been more of a setup for the next book. Either way, I cannot say enough good things about this series. This series does not get enough love. It is super underrated in my opinion. I implore you, if you haven't checked this series out and you are a fan of fantasy, please check out The Rage of Dragons and do yourself a favor and read the sequel, because it holds up just as good as its first book. I give this series a big ol' wow. That means good. Can't wait for what's next. Evan Winter, The Burning series. Let's get book 3. Book 3 I thought was supposed to come out kind of soon, but it seems like we're gonna have to wait a bit longer. It's alright, it's not a big deal. I can wait a little. But anyway, let's get into spoilers. Fires of Vengeance started solid. It actually started perfect for me. Something that I thought was going to happen in book 1 became the first sort of plot thread that was shown for book 2, and that was Jabari Onai. We have a whole scene where he's basically in a hospital bed, he's unable to move, and he just has to sit there and listen to Tao admit that he killed his brother. Really sets up what he might become in either book 3 or 4 against Tao. I, for the record, think that he is going to oppose Tao, for sure. Tao was great, as always. It was nice to see him conflict with Nia and Sayora. It was good to have them challenge him because I felt like it made him a better leader. It forced him to look at things from a different perspective. He showed growth, but by that third act, I felt like he became book 1 Tao again, you know? I felt like that vengeful part of him completely came out, in that last act, and he was much less caring. Uduak and Hadith in book 1 were my favorite sword brothers, and I guess now in this book they're my favorite couple. That's a hell of an evolution. The lore expansion was interesting. The way that they conveyed new aspects of the magic system was very cool. Tao's mother was an interesting character in this book. I wasn't a big fan of her, but I understood her character. I felt like it was more of a love-hate thing I had with her, where I did not like the way she treated Tao, but I understood her motivations. I understood that she felt her own vengefulness, and much like Tao, she showed apathy. Jabari is seemingly going down the same path as Tao, but my assumption is that they're going to be two sides of the same coin. Jabari has also now lost his family. He has suffered some pretty rough wounds, but he has found some level of hope in being able to fight in Isihogo, so I'm curious where that's going to go. Kellan Okar was another favorite of mine in book 1, but we didn't get a lot of him in this book. He was kind of put on the sidelines and put in for a scene where he got totally dominated and almost murdered by demons. The overall ending of the book was great, but again, like I said, it felt a bit abrupt. I felt like the whole thing with Zidane and the son that Tao pissed off when he killed his father. By the end of the book, it felt like they were building up that, something was going to happen between them right away. But really it was just a setup for book 3. Tao and Jabari facing off in Isihogo was so cool. There's a moment where Tao, I believe it's a separate scene, maybe it's the end of the scene between them fighting, where Tao basically stays in Isihogo for, if I recall, it was days, and he's just fighting and fighting and fighting. We get introduced to a 4-horned demon, which is the one thing that I'm most curious about for book 3, because the image of the demon, how it was behaving, I want to know so much more about what is going on with that character, whatever that thing is. The battle for Palm City was intense. The dragons facing off, the main dragon that Queen Sayora had, I believe it was black and red, something along those lines. Maybe it was just pitch black, dominating, killing multiple dragons. That was crazy. Evan Winter does this great thing in his writing where once these situations start to get bad, they just get worse and worse and worse and overwhelming at times, but it really feels intense, and it fits this feeling that these cultures feel towards each other too. It gets to a point where we see Odili's people slit the throat of a child. We see numbers of gifted being hung. It's really no holds barred. And my favorite thing that came out of this book was the formation of the scale Ayim. So cool. Every aspect of it is great. The name of the group being inspired by Jayid Ayim, their master. Each member of the group is so unique in how they look and how they behave. Jabari, I think, really finishes off that group's look with his outfit, being hooded, hiding his entire face. Uduak being this hulking figure in the group. Osset and Ramia, these sort of twin-looking, white robe-wearing warriors with these dual-wield dirks. Themba smiling off to the side. It really paints this powerful picture. I think that the Ayim was sort of like an Avengers being formed. I love that they had such good chemistry together. The whole through line of them training in Isihogo together was my favorite part of the experience reading this. It was so interesting to watch all of them improve as warriors, and I'm so curious to see how far this idea of training in Isihogo is going to go for future books. I'm curious if we're going to have a war against the demons in Isihogo. I'm wondering what Isihogo has to do with the sort of bigger picture, because now that we're getting this 4-horned creature, it has to matter in some way, shape, or form to the bigger story. So all I can say is that I'm really excited to see where that goes. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this one. So if you liked what you saw, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. But until next time, guys, see you.